Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, State Senator Denis, the chair of the Education Committee, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2021 Nevada legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. Ahern Rentals is ready for your next project. Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. And Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, it is always a pleasure to welcome back to the program State Senator Denis. Really a pleasure to have you back here, sir. You are one of my favorite people.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I always enjoy coming.
You're chair of the Education Committee, vice chair of the Finance Committee, so a lot of important roles here. With funding coming from the feds and $18 billion, according to Senator Scott Hammond, already being sent here, where are the holes at this point, do you feel, in education funding?
Well, I think the biggest hole in education funding is that, you know, we put a new funding formula in place last time, replaced the 53-year-old funding formula, the People-Centered funding formula. And part of that, we created a commission that meets kind of like the Economic Forum, but they meet, you know, throughout the interim. They look at funding formula. They look at what it costs to educate a child. So they come up with like optimal funding and some other things. One of the things that's very clear coming out of the commission is that we are short overall funding for education by a couple $2 billion, which is significant. You know, the education budget is around $4 billion, and so we need to figure out ways to get that. So when you talk about where are the significant holes, is they're basically everywhere, because really that's where we're at. Because anything you look at, people say we just don't have enough funding to do this or to do that, or you know. Fortunately, with the new funding formula, that can we know where all the money goes and how it gets distributed, so it'll be easier to figure out where to put it.
Okay, so over the past X amount of sessions, you know, the teachers union have said we need an extra $1 billion. We need an extra $1 billion. What would this $2 billion that you say is the shortfall, what would that go toward? What are we missing out on here?
Well, class size reduction, it goes towards literacy programs, making sure that everybody can have those literacy programs. We've got the new weights in the funding formula are for English language learners, and for the way it's currently defined is like free kids that are in free and reduced lunch, which is really basically low achieving kids. And so any programs that help that, you know, the majority of education funding goes to teachers, We know we're short teachers, and we're using a lot of long-term substitutes, a lot of regular substitutes. So you know, the majority of the funding goes to someone that's actually going to be teaching a child, and that would allow us to have more teachers, also to have some more, making sure that we've got the adequate administration. We're going to be short administrators, so all of those kinds of programs are definitely programs that would benefit from having that additional funding.
Okay, so now let's get realistic. You know, even with this additional federal funding, you know, how much additional money do you think you're going to be able to see beyond what's already there?
You mean during this session?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we have to deal with the revenue that we have, right? In the current budget that was presented to us to consider from the governor, there are cuts when it comes to overall, all over state government, which includes some cuts to education. So we're hoping that that federal money coming in is going to be able to fill some of those holes. But you know, everybody wants to spend the federal money, but yet it's going to be till the middle of March, or I'm sorry, the middle of May, before we actually get the rules concerning how that is to be distributed. So we have to move forward right now with the budget that's realistic based on the revenues that we have.
Oh, okay, and the Economic Forum numbers will come out in May as well. Will they be here before the rules for the federal money?
Yes, definitely, because that happens that first week of May, and that's the number that we have to use to create the budget. How we incorporate federal money into that budget is something that we don't know yet, because we don't know what the rules are going to be concerning that. So it's a very tight timeline that we're going to have to figure out, okay, here's our budget for the state, and here's where federal dollars are, and how we're going to allocate those.
Okay, how does the Clark County Education Association's plans to raise funds through the sales tax increase and a tax on gaming, that's been pushed to the voters now, but how would that play into that? And do you think that because of the circumstances with COVID and the cutbacks in the gaming industry that we've seen, how does this all play out at this point? I mean, does it come off as negative? You know, because I mean, you know, people love teachers. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But the unions have been, this Clark County Education Association has been so heavy-handed. You know, do you think that has been a negative toward education and its funding?
Well, I think that there's just a frustration when it comes to education funding. You know, I mentioned the people-centered funding plan. That's going to be, because all of the money for education, and there's like, I can't remember, it's like 40 or something, or maybe 50 different pots of money that go into education. All that's going to go into one big pot. So we're going to be able to see where money's going. So if people, you know, are going to be looking at or considering voting for any additional revenue, such as what the Clark County Education Association is proposing, they're going to know where that money's going, because it's based on the funding for a student. So we'll know how much each school gets, and as it gets implemented, it's going to be very clear where the issues are, because some schools are going to get more money than others because it's based on everybody gets the base amount, but all those special needs that we have are going to get allocated to schools that have those special needs, and those that don't are going to get just the base amount. So everybody is going to be real clear, and so I think we're at a period of time where people want to do more for education, but they want to know where it's going. How it's being used, and we definitely have that now with a new plan, a new funding plan that's going to allow us to see that. So I think it's going to be easier to make those decisions.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that, you know, for a lot of politicians, they don't realize that the public is not averse to spending money if they know where it's going to go.
Right.
They're averse to just spending money where they don't know where it's going to go. There's been discussion about the Clark County Education Association not going to the ballot if things work out in this session. Is that possible legally? Because the legislature has punted this to the voters. So is it automatic that it goes to the voters, or is there some wiggle room where it could not go to the voters if an accommodation is achieved during this session?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly where we're at on that issue. There's always that possibility that it could not go, could not go. But at the same time, I think we have the opportunity. Normally, what happens is it comes forward. We have the opportunity to look at it, and if we, either we don't do anything on it or do something on it, we could. It could end up with the voters or not. So it just depends on what we end up deciding as a legislature, what we're going to do with that particular issue.
Okay, so it could be decided at the legislature that this ends up not going to the ballot if there's agreement.
That's my understanding, that there is something that could happen there that it wouldn't need to end up on the ballot.
Let's talk about the personal side of COVID, because we've seen so much problems with families, mental health issues, problems with domestic violence, abuse. What's your sense, because you're very much involved in the community itself, what's your sense of where we are coming out of COVID at this point in time?
Well, I mean, obviously we've had an interesting year. I think that there are...
That's the understatement of the year.
And interesting in that, you could look and focus on the negative things that are happening, and definitely COVID has brought out the inequities that we have in the way we do things here. And I think it's also been a positive thing in some respects as far as knowing what kinds of things we need to do moving forward, and also realizing that perhaps some of the things that we did before weren't as necessary, which allows us to do, be able to do other things and realize that the way we did it before wasn't always the best way. But definitely as a legislature, we've looked at what kind of additional supports are we going to have to do, right? Whether it's in education, having to catch kids up, whether it's in healthcare, making sure that people have what they need. And mental health being a huge issue. Exactly, and mental health, even before the pandemic, mental health was something that's just been a huge issue for us. Obviously we've seen the way that mental health, healthcare, education, that we just don't have enough funding to do that. So we're having to make decisions on how do we fix that. Part of that has to also do with providing flexibility, perhaps in some of the ways that we fund things. So I know we're looking at some of that, but yeah, definitely.
For example?
Well, I mean, like in education, right now we say you have to spend money in this box and you have to spend it for this thing. But if we just say, this is what we want the outcome to be, and these are the kinds of things we want you to do, then you have to spend money to do that. But if you didn't spend it all in this particular thing, you could spend it over here. One of the issues that we have now is if you didn't spend it over here, you lose it. If you didn't spend all of it, and sometimes I'll just spend it all just because they don't want to lose it. But if they could have the opportunity to take the difference and spend it over here, like English language learner, you might need more for that, but you might need less in some other program. But before we were really strict on how we do that. So that's one example. I think with some of the healthcare issues, we probably have some similar things where we say you've got to spend it this way, but if we gave flexibility, they might actually be able to accomplish both things with the same amount of money, but because they have the flexibility, they could do more.
Okay, so it sounds like a great idea, but would there be oversight from the legislature, interim finance or something like that, to make sure that where the money was being spent was appropriate according to the legislature?
Yes, so there's reports that are that they have to do to make sure that they are spending it in the way that needs to be spent. The laws on a lot of the stuff aren't going to change, but how much you spend on it might change, as long as you can show that you're accomplishing what needs to be done. When it comes to children and schools, that they're achieving. When it comes to healthcare, that people are getting the care that they need. So those things are going to have to be, part of that, definitely, that we see it's being done the way it needs to be done.
Do you think that the unions are taking a hit in Clark County, especially because other school districts across the state opened up much sooner than Clark County? Do you think that that's both a hit with and a hit to parents and also a hit to the image of the Clark County School District, that they weren't able to get their act together to get kids back in the classroom?
Well, when I look at it, I mean, you have 80% of the students in the state in one area, one school district.
Sure, the fifth largest in the country.
Right, and for them to have implemented, I'm the husband of a first grade teacher and father of a middle school social studies teacher. So we've had first grade going on in my home for the last year, and just recently my wife has started going back to school doing with students for a couple days, and then she's still doing online for 3 days, and now they're going to be switching to students. I think it would have been a disaster to try to get kids back in Clark County without having everything in place, being able to protect the staff and as well as protect the kids. I think that I think if it had not been done the way it has been, I think there would have been issues. Our other school districts are smaller, and they had the ability to be able to figure out some of this stuff and get it done. But for Clark to do those kinds of things, they got to make sure everything's in place. So at the end of the day, will they take a hit on that? Parents, obviously want kids in classrooms, but some parents have found out that their kids actually do better online. That's one of the benefits to what we've done, right? And then others have figured out that their kids definitely need that. And now as we go back, we'll have that insight to do it better as we open up the schools down in Clark County.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with more with State Senator Mo Dennis after this timeout.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino in March. Win your share of the $75,000 Mad Money giveaways now through March 31st. Plus 5 times points every Friday.
Located in the heart of Carson City, the Bank Saloon, a historic watering hole with a modern feel. With a variety of classic cocktails featuring Nevada spirits, space for private events, conferences, and an incredible atmosphere. The Bank Saloon offers a great location to work and play. Come visit us. Located at the corner of 5th and Carson. We'll save you a drink.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerhour, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino in March. Win your share of the $75,000 Mad Money giveaways now through March 31st. Plus 5 times points every Friday.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Mo Dennis. He's the Education Committee Chair and Vice Chair of Finance. Innovation zones, the taking of Story County says, and I presume you're up on this particular issue, correct?
Yeah.
So, the advertisements say that there's no cost to the taxpayers, but to Story County, if they lose 67,000 acres of their county, down the road there would be a cost for lost revenues, would there not?
Well, it depends, right? Because that's based on the premise that if you put something out in the middle of nowhere that wasn't going to be used, would you ever realize any revenue? So I guess it depends, right? If you took 67,000 acres of land that was prime, commercial or residential area, you would be losing. But if you picked an area where they would never develop because it's too far out, there's no utilities and those kind of things, then I don't know how there would be a cut to revenue in that particular case.
Well, out of the 67,000 acres, my understanding is that there's only about 1,500 acres that is developable, which is still a lot of land. Because originally TRI, even though it was 102,000 acres, only had 6 5,000 acre pieces that they could develop. But I mean, it's really not out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's, adjacent to the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center, and I believe some of the land is actually within the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center. But here's the question really, which is if this can be done in Story County, this could be done in Clark County, this could be done in Elko County, because you can take 50,000 acres. Obviously, it doesn't have to all be developable because a bunch of Story County is mountains.
Right.
And so, would Clark County have a concern if somebody came along and, tech billionaires certainly have the ability to come in with that kind of money, $250 million to get started and then $1 billion over, time. Would Clark County be happy to lose 50,000 acres?
Well, I'm sure, with Clark, especially with the growth and everything going there, I think there would be a concern. I think anybody would have that concern. I just don't, what we don't know is how do you look at this issue and see if it's a good thing, right? So that's what we're in the process of, is looking at that. Would developing something where you didn't have to spend any money, would that be an issue? So I would think there would be a concern with Clark, but I don't know that Clark has the that same ability to have that kind of acreage that wouldn't eventually be developed. So I don't know.
Well, let me ask you one other thing about this, and then we'll move on. Story County has developed the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center under their rules and regulations. They have the largest factory in the world, the Gigafactory.
Right.
They've got Google, they've got Switch. Why on earth would Story County not be able to handle a smart city? It seems like that would be the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, I don't know that they have the revenue readily available to help to develop that, but I don't know. I haven't looked at their particular finances. The thing that is being proposed there, we're talking a lot of infrastructure and other things that, I don't know that they would be able to do that. I think if they were able to do that in the time frame that needed to be done, perhaps, people would look at that differently. So I don't know, I guess would be my answer.
Yeah, well, this is obviously the topic to be debated. We'll take another break. We'll be right back.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Serving Our Kids Foundation's mission is to serve homeless, at-risk, and food-insecure children in grades K through 8 throughout Southern Nevada. During the pandemic, Serving Our Kids has seen a 42% increase in the number of children served, providing more than 4,500 meals to kids in over 100 schools weekly. Serving Our Kids is powered by community support and volunteers. To learn how you can help, visit servingourkids.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Mo Denis. Going back to Story County just for a moment, is Clark County looking at the tax revenue that Story County will be getting after the abatements go away? That could be, a lot of money coming to a very small county that doesn't have, school infrastructure, or a very small school infrastructure, doesn't have all the regular infrastructure the normal county would have. So is Clark County or other counties looking at that revenue going, hey, what about our share?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked to them about that, so I'm not sure, I'm sure they are following all of this and taking that into consideration, but I haven't had a discussion with them about it.
So the discussion has been at the session so far about natural gas, not so much on the floor, but just the discussion in general about it potentially going away in the near term. There was an interesting development over the last couple of days where Shell, the giant oil company, has written down a lot of their natural gas resources because they are seeing the writing on the wall that eventually natural gas is going to go away. What are your thoughts on this? Is this something we should be acting on now to do something in the short term, whereby homeowners would have to replace their appliances in the near term, perhaps rejigger their house to go from natural gas to electricity? Wouldn't that be a huge cost?
Yeah, I haven't looked at this issue thoroughly yet on what do you do in that case, but there definitely would be, if we were to do that, there'd definitely be, there would have to be a period of time, probably long period of time. I remember when we didn't have gas.
Right.
Everything was electric and they had to come in and start putting gas. I mean, it's a huge undertaking to do that. So I know that whatever happens, there definitely is going to have to be plenty of time to be able to do that.
So do you think that this is something that should be punted from this session to another session to give the legislature time to really look at it?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen yet what's being proposed. It could just end up being a study that we're looking to see what would it take to do something like this. So, I mean, I think if we're doing that kind of thing, I think that those are the kind of things that probably we should be looking at. So yeah, I don't know that we can get any substantial things done without a lot of discussion.
And that's where we have to leave it. State Senator Mo Denis, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And we'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
We'll see you on the next broadcast, coming to you from the Bank Saloon in Carson City. See you then.